All right, great. I think we are good to go. Everybody is on the stage, I think. I think Agata has some issue joining via the phone, so she's figuring it out. Yes, I think we have everyone. I'm really excited, actually, to have invited so many of my friends to join the call to discuss and review the end year. Normally, we only invite like one or two guest speaker into our Twitter space, and it's super empty. Nobody's here. But I think I should have invited you guys earlier. Um, so we have a lot of guest speakers here. So I think the first thing we're gonna do is do a round table. So everybody just to introduce yourself. Some of you I know you want to stay anonymous. That's fine. But, so just be careful for when you introduce yourself. Don't tell which company you come from if you don't want to. So we will start from Tim because Tim is right next to me. Tim, do you want to give a quick intro about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So I think from the post, so I currently work in an exchange, so based in London, and then my job is mainly around technical side. So I perform as a front-end developer at the moment. So before that, I'm a recent graduate from University of Edinburgh, and then major in high performance computing. So besides that, I mainly do act as a full stack Web3 dev. Yep.
Brilliant. Thanks, Tim. Next one, next to Tim is Nana. Can you hear us, Nana?
Yes. Can you hear
Yep.
me? Okay, great. Okay, thank you, Yudi, for having me here. So I'm Lana. I currently working for a licensed bank in Switzerland, and before that, I've been working in finance industry for 8 years. And myself actually is also quite newbie in this space. I actually only got to engage with cryptos since DeFi summer. So myself is still learning. Lost a lot of money, of course. And last year actually, I also got heavily engaged in NFTs. To be honest, the most of the money I lost a lot in the crypto trading, but the NFTs. So. uh, and this year, so many things happened. When I look back and last year, exactly about this time, it's like my first time to get to know about NFTs, and I really look forward to the sharing and or also to hear about your guys'
Mm-hmm.
stories. Oh, by the way, and I'm also now in the bank. I am taking care of the Asian clients. So Asian clients.
Cool.
So yeah, that's basically
Awesome. Awesome.
about
Glad
what I'm
glad
doing.
to
Thank
have you
you.
here, Nana. So some of you may know each other, right? So some of you may not. So if you probably want to reach to each other later on after the call if you feel interested. So next one is Brian.
Yeah, hi Yudi, thanks for having me here. My name is Brian. My background is in product and data. I started off my career in San Francisco with Uber. Most recently joined NFT with Rarible leading the data team over there for the past 9 months. Yeah, this year's been interesting. Excited to be here to share and learn from each other. Looking forward to the discussion. Thank you.
Awesome. Awesome. Brian's old friend of mine. So thank you for coming, Brian. Next one next to Brian is Jeremy from Wallawallet.
Yeah, hey Yudi. Thanks for having me up here. Appreciate it. Yeah, so in my previous life, I was with AT&T. I was in telecommunications for most of my adult life, and then I got caught up in the crypto craze back in 2017. I had a coworker that kind of grabbed me by the shirt and said, we've got to start mining Bitcoin right now, and I said, okay, well, hold on, let me get an idea of what's going on. Let me figure out what this space is all about. So of course, when I dug in, I fell in love. It's been, I kind of fell down the rabbit hole. We competed in a competition, a Hedera-based competition. So our wallet, Wallawallet, is primarily Hedera Hashgraph, is based off of Hedera Hashgraph. So we competed out in Dallas in 2018, and then just decided we did well in the competition out there, so we decided to pursue it as a business. We launched Wallawallet. The first iteration of Wallawallet was launched in 2020. We recently launched a new version, version 2.0, which a big shout out to Yudi for his help. Yudi was absolutely instrumental in the design, in our UI design. So he kind of laid the groundwork for us. Of course, we did a lot of the there was all kinds of all the color palettes and the fonts and all that stuff had to be decided, but Yudi had really helped us lay the groundwork. So thanks for that. And and so now Wallawallet version 2.0 supports what I call the evolution of NFTs. So it's no longer just about eternal JPEGs. We've really moved into the utility use cases where you can have all kinds of things embedded within your NFT. You can have videos, you can have YouTube links, you can have PDFs, you can file nest all sorts of things within these NFTs. We were just just this morning was doing a recording about a group called Road Code that does the bicycle races primarily throughout Europe, like the Tour de France, and they have really cool, like they take the data from the races and they include footage from like the GoPros of the guys that are actually on the bicycles racing. So you can take you can take that multimedia content, embed it within an NFT, and that kind of creates that lasting digital impression with fans and users. So we're really excited about that.
Cool.
Again, thanks for having us up here.
Awesome.
It's great to be
here. Yeah, always great to have you, Jeremy. So
Thanks.
next to Jeremy is Anton. Would you please give an intro about yourself, Anton?
Awesome. Yeah. First, thanks, Yudi, very much for inviting me, and really a pleasure to be here with all cool people. So just a brief intro about myself. Just like your previous guest said in the previous slide, I worked at a hedge fund. I was a high-frequency trader, a market maker in the foreign exchange markets. And then I was actually at the right place, just at the right place at the right time. One day, my boss at the hedge fund called me. He said, he's shutting down the hedge fund. This is not the future. There's this new thing called the blockchain. Let's do a startup in that. And unlike your previous guest, I didn't think about it too. I just said, yeah, why not? Let's do it. And basically, we founded the second ever crypto company in Switzerland back in 2013 called Licker, where we built what we call today a semi-decentralized exchange. It was quite a success story. Basically, in over 5 years, built it from 2 to 200 people. Did many things beyond just the exchange. And then I kind of did an exit, had a good feeling for timing. So I did an exit in January 2018. And then I co-founded several more crypto companies, a co-working space for crypto companies and a market maker. And I was running the market maker as a CEO for 5 years. Had also now a good feeling for timing, left 6 months ago. So, and now kind of observing what's happening in the crypto space, enthusiastic about a lot of new things, and just super excited, to talk to you all today, what happened in the last year.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Anton. We still have Nico and Agata. So Nico, would you please introduce yourself?
Of course. Thanks, everyone, and it's great to be among such a cool group of people. Well, I'm Nico. I'm originally from Bolivia. I live in Amsterdam. I'm the founder of Troop Finance and also a founding member of WebLab and Ethereum Bolivia. Ethereum Bolivia is a community there in Bolivia. That's where I'm from, where we are trying to expand the Ethereum ecosystem there. WebLab is a Web3 community that started here in Amsterdam, but now expanded to 4 other cities. And the idea is to bring people together that are working on Web3 or experimenting with Web3 to develop cool things together and learn together. And and Troop Finance is a collaborative investment platform that we're building on top of Lens protocol. That's my profile.
Great. I also see Sharon is in the call. I invite you to the stage if you want to talk, say hi. Feel free to do so. The next one is Agata. So her name shows no name, but Agata, welcome. It's a long time.
Hi, nice to hear you. It's been a long time indeed.
Yeah.
So hi everyone. Nice to meet you and hear all your stories. I'm Agata. I'm a co-founder of Kasuria. It's a company specializing in the DeFi investment strategies. So my background is in analytics, data science, and that's what I'm bringing into Web3. So what we are building right now is a tool that would allow you to assess the multi-step strategies in DeFi. So whenever you are investing through across multiple protocols and you want to understand how the yield how the yield performed in the past and how this complex strategy performed. This is something that we are building, so you can compose your strategy of multi-steps and assess it with data. Yeah, so that's a little bit about myself.
Awesome. Thank you, Agata. So yeah, it's quite a lot of people, so it takes a bit of time to do the introduction even. The topic of today is actually we review the year of 2022, right? So mostly in the Web3 crypto space. You guys are all experts there. So, I mean, the top three things in my mind is probably the Luna UST crash and then the FTX recently crash, and plus one of the good things is the Ethereum merge, plus many small things like the big names, they start to offer crypto custodian services like Nasdaq, State Street, and payment service like PayPal, Stripe. They actually support crypto payments, and a lot of brands they enter the NFT market like Nike, Starbucks, Tiffany, Reddit, etc. Of course, I mean recently the NFT and the World Cup, right? So many things happened in 2022, and that's something we want to discuss and review today. So my question to you guys is the first question that I have is probably very general. Like, how's your experience in 2022? Whether as a founder of a startup company or as a frontline, explorer of crypto digital in a bank or NFT marketplace. Just share a bit of your story. So I think we will probably go the other way around. So from Agata.
Sure. So I think it's been a bit of a mixed bag of the year, right? So I think the 2021 finished with a big, let's say, boom on crypto and a lot of interest in the area. But of course, from the middle of the year, especially from the Luna collapse, we've been seeing kind of a different trend. And, especially after the FTX fiasco, this trend has been intensified. For me personally, this whole discussion about FTX is quite often wrongly positioned. So, it's supposed to be quite often it's positioned in media or by people who want to, let's say, who already have a very strong negative perception about crypto, is that, this is again showing how dangerous this space is. Whereas for me, especially coming more from the DeFi angle, I think, okay, well, it's an example of what happens in the financial markets that are centralized and unregulated. I mean, it's not a big a surprise, I would say. So for me, this whole FTX situation just shows that we need a better understanding of what blockchain in financial context means and which spaces need to be regulated how. If the code is not regulating, let's say, parts of the transactions themselves. So from the founder, I can tell you that the second half of the year has been rather tough, especially when you want to raise a round. You can, let's say that the VCs are becoming much more conservative with spending. The valuations are lower, which I don't think is necessarily a bad thing, especially when we talk about valuations from the beginning of 2021. They might have been too inflated. But it's not, of course, the easiest market. And, with, let's say, other macro trends on the horizon, the picture is not at the moment the most positive. At the same time, I think that there are a lot of interesting projects popping up. I think that, the institutional, let's say, focus or interest in that space has definitely increased in the last year, and I don't think it's going anywhere. So there are a lot of positive signs as well that I'm seeing, and I think they are also macro trends. It's just a matter of surviving this storm right now. And I'm still positive about what the technology and also a lot of underpinning, let's say, ideas that it carries over can bring to 2023 and beyond.
Great. Yeah, thank you very much, Agata. The reason that I put Luna and FTX stuff in my top 3 things because I lost money in both cases. A lot in Luna, but less in FTX because I kind of learned from that. But yeah, so yeah, that's my learning story this year, like directly to money. But let's see what Nico has in his mind.
Yeah, I agree with most of what Agata said. Of course, and you, Yudi, like I think that it was a tough year in terms of yeah, depends on how you look at it, right? Like for CeFi and for the Luna ecosystem, it was a pretty bad year. But if you look, for example, at the Ethereum ecosystem, it was an incredible year. Like as you mentioned, the merge happened, but also myself as someone from Latin America, seeing the adoption that's happening in that continent and seeing all the amazing events that happened over there. So 2 hackathons, ETH Mexico and ETH Bogota, and of course DevCon. Yeah, it was an incredible experience, and you could see how much the ecosystem is thriving despite all the all the market situations that weren't so favorable. But and yeah, I surprised myself how, because I also lost a bit of money in both cases. Luckily, not a lot of money, but I was still surprised by how little I cared about it, because I was really focused on building and yeah, bringing the ecosystem further. So I think there were a lot of positive things, and of course it must be tough especially for certain people. But I think if we look in the future, we can see that it will be a positive thing in the end.
Yeah, Anton, I actually read your recent interview about the shadow dad stuff. Maybe you also have some great insight over there.
Yeah, thanks a lot, and happy to provide a bit of a perspective from my side, and it's very interesting how you opened the discussion. You literally mentioned the Terra Luna ecosystem, which was very much driven by Anchor, if you remember it. So it had a stable coin and a lending borrowing protocol where you could get, in retrospect, unrealistic yields. And I think what was interesting is that it attracted a lot of attention and a lot of investments, let's be honest, both from professional, we now realize professional investors, also retail, obviously a lot of them. And it was kind of very interesting because the quasi DeFi ecosystem or the crypto ecosystem was kind of enabling a high yield, a very attractive one, while the real world was starved of that because, the central banks were suppressing the interest rates, and that was kind of like a crypto ecosystem was pitched very strongly as an opportunity to get yields and, be attractive yields, attractive returns, and kind of be free of the influences that we have, from the monetary systems and so on, So I think like a big thing that happened for me this year, kind of what I realized is actually that going forward, we'll be competing with the real world actually. So we as a crypto industry will be competing with the real world. The rates are going down in the crypto industry, both in the DeFi protocols in the shadow debt market that you mentioned now, kind of where big players were borrowing and lending assets. And, I think that was like a big thing for me, like a very macro perspective actually, that going this year, but going forward, we are competing actually with the real world when it comes to yield, And I think this is very important for us as an industry to understand that, because the fight for capital will also be very fierce. Your previous guest mentioned, that it's very difficult to raise capital. Just imagine how difficult it will be to raise capital. If treasuries are paying 8 or 10%. And we have to compete with this kind of ecosystems. So I think from a macro perspective, this is like a very, very big thing for me this year. What I learned, what I realized, and but at the same time, there's many things that are happening where I'm highly optimistic, that kind of emerged this year. And I'm just very happy about one of your guests, who is building on top of Lens, so I'm extremely bullish, started being extremely bullish this year on decentralized social networks. I remember them actually back from 2016 when Steemit was coming. I don't know if anybody remembers it, but it was very big. So back then we didn't make it, but I think this time maybe with Stani and the team, maybe this will be a good opportunity to build something on top. And so this is like, there are many things where I'm highly bullish, and also debt market. I think, all this fallouts from what happened with Genesis, with Celsius, with FTX, obviously it was a very different problem, basically, taking retail deposits to bail out companies. It's not, what the debt markets are. But I think debt markets are in the couple of years is going to be extremely big part of our ecosystem as an infrastructure. Yeah. And that's where I'm highly bullish. And maybe just to end it, on one thing. So when I joined the crypto space back in 2013, we launched a company. I was super excited about it because the prices were going up. I don't know who remembers it back then, actually. But basically, a few months later, Mt. Gox blew up. And Mt. Gox was, by volume, the biggest crypto exchange platform back then. Basically, it had 90% of the volume. And what happened was, after they blew up, 2 years, a year and a half of 2 years, nobody wanted to talk to us. Literally, if you were pitching crypto or blockchain back then, like literally, they would just point the finger at Mt. Gox or Silk Road and say, "You guys don't know what you're doing. You're kids. This is nonsense. This is not serious." And now, when I reflect on it, I mean, we are very serious now. It's a big industry. It's $1 trillion industry now. Back then, it was barely a few billion, and that's what makes me, very optimistic, But at the same time, optimistic that we need to build, and we need to build protocols and infrastructure that will enable us to build a better financial system that's back in the traditional world, because this is against what we're competing now, and we will need to do better. So this is kind of my short message.
Yeah, thank you very much, Anton. Actually, I want to reflect on what you said about like FTX using, user client treasury to do other investment, etc. I think it's a bit, to me, it's a bit like those centralized exchange. They're mixing themselves up with as a bank, but actually they're not a bank, right? So in the real world, the one that the Web3 is gonna compete with next year, like you said, a bank actually they can actually use the client's money, but under a certain collateral rate, right? So, but it's kind of regulated. But in crypto space, exchange is not a bank, and they probably shouldn't do that, or they probably can do that under certain new regulation in the future. It's kind of mixed up story. So, I think that's probably causing some exchanges. They take the risk to use clients' money because it's like unregulated. Cool.
Yeah, can I say something? Because I want to reflect on your point. Exactly about this bank stuff, because I worked at a regulated bank here in Switzerland. So although we can do crypto, but we have no difference than other big banks here in Switzerland. So yeah, definitely what happened to Luna and FTX. On personal level, it did impact a lot on my personal investment, but for our company, I think that is a good thing. And people start to realize, appreciate a regulated bank, because as a bank, our clients' assets, they are strictly segregated. There's no way that we can touch their assets, and not to mention to use it for other purposes. So from my experience, at the beginning, after I joined the bank, for a period of time, I feel just boring getting here because we're so restricted and regulated. We actually cannot do too much innovation. So if you compare it with other crypto institutions, and you see, they grow super fast, they make lots of revenues, and they're that, and suddenly, this Luna thing came in, and actually it has had no impact on us. Because for us, for every coins that we onboard to our platform that we offer to clients, we have a very strict due diligence process. So the Lula coin is not onboarded, not to mention the stable coin. So yeah, to be honest, at the moment we only support USDC. Even USDT, we don't think it's legit or compliant because it has some reserve issues, the assets backup issues. So and also it's interesting for me that to see after this Lula thing happened, and on news I actually saw some like the potential clients name those companies which used to they wanted to open accounts with us, and but we didn't open account for them because one hand they're gonna like bring in their clients money and they want to do leverage and things. But for us, if our clients want to bring in their clients money, we request them to have license. So we have very strict process on account opening for that. So when I see those names on the news, I'd be like, oh my God. So all those things like happening in the past, you see they're having lots of money flowing into them or whatever. Maybe one hand they're just on leverage, and on the other hand, you just see how messy actually are out there among other those institution players, because this is really like a Wild West. At the moment. But for us, we choose to develop under a regulated like a frame. So although we develop slow, but I mean eventually if the whole industry, the crypto finance industry want to grow healthily, I think it should be in this way. And now especially after this FTX thing, I actually see upcoming a lot increasing account opening demands from clients, and like they suddenly realize the importance of get regulated. Although we don't have that many offerings or different kinds of offerings compared with other institutions. I give you an example, and even for now, we cannot do DeFi. Actually, previously we explored and we want to onboard some like DeFi protocols and allow our clients to stake in the DeFi pool, but the regulators eventually they didn't allow it, because in DeFi you have no counterparty there. So it's like if anything happened to the pool, you even have no counterparty to sue. But on the other hand, I also think the regulators, they should involve themselves as well, as to better facilitate the development of the crypto finance industry. But yeah, so that's my story. That's what I want to share. When Yudi mentioned about this, some crypto exchange, and they're not a bank, or even if there are some like institutions, they use bank name, but as long as they are not licensed, they're not under regulation, so they're definitely not a bank. Yeah. And
but just a quick question. I'm not sure, maybe just me. So because as far as I know, I think as a bank, you actually you are allowed to use your customers' money to lend it to other customers, right? So you basically make interest out of that. That's how traditional bank makes money. So you can actually do that,
But actually, we have this tier 1 capital requirements against the risky assets. So I don't know the details because I'm not an expert in that. I'm not from compliance, but as far as I know, for example, like if you want to give a loan, you have to provide a loan or derivative products. For us, we have to prepare like 8 times of the assets back.
Okay.
Yeah, so you have to prepare some capital for that.
Got it. Yeah.
So yeah, definitely. I mean, and also our clients' assets, if they want to take them out, they can just take them out.
Yeah.
It's definitely like super safe for clients.
Okay. So you mentioned a lot of people come to you guys to your bank to open the account. So they probably living places like FTX and Binance, etc. So maybe we ask a bit opinion from Tim. What's your experience in 2022, and how do you see this?
Yeah, so I didn't lose any assets just to make it yeah, because I don't do a lot of trades nowadays. So basically this year is more focused on technical stuff. And then I'm very bullish on Links protocol as well. Yeah, great job on building stuff on Links protocol. So I started looking at it like basically around January, February when I heard of it. It's definitely a great protocol that Stanley is building, and then trying to leverage the SocialFi system. Yeah, from my perspective, I think there are pros and cons this year. Even though there's a lot of things happening, we see a lot of black swans. However, I think the positive side of the technology is still there. More and more people trying to join into the space, building their own space, own project, bounding with their traditional experiences. I think it's just great. No, I can see that a lot of talented people are joining, trying to bring their own thoughts into the space. Instead of saying like, okay, a lot of people have a lot of experience already within the space, so we're trying to bring new stuff in here to make a different bound with the traditional stuff. I think next year we're gonna see more people with already that we always talk about mass adoption, a lot of traditional companies trying to join in, and then we will see more people join in to leverage and embrace further with blockchain technology. So I'm bullish on the future, to be honest. I think the regulation is important. I'm definitely supporting the regulation, especially I'm here based in UK. FCA is very troublesome. The regulation they do it just is actually too much. But however, I think being regulated is important. That's what I want to say. I think everyone, the previous guests has really rounded up so much. I couldn't really add on more. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Tim. Since we talk about regulation, so with Nana and Tim, so Brian, you want to bring some perspective from the NFT space?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was about, because I think I agree with all the guests mentioned about, lots of things happen in the space. But at the same time, I think also I will chime in a bit more from an NFT or, like from a builder perspective. So a couple of things interesting, right? When we look into right now, post FTX or post Lunar, I think in terms of NFT, we actually see a majority in the industry, like a 80-90% drop from the all-time high in terms of volume. So right now, to be honest, the market's a bit down, but at the same time, there's also two trends quite interesting to see. One is more, big project Web2 brands are joining in NFT space to do some experiments. Couple examples: Reddit, Starbucks, they are joining the Polygon drops, and those are, to our opinion, they're massively successful because let's say for Reddit, one collection launch, they already able to onboard 3 million wallets in one collection, which has instantly become one of the largest marketplace in the space. So to me, this becomes very optimistic or become very interesting to look about. I think the space also shift towards how can we grow the whole pie together outside of just being crypto native. So that's how we see like Polygon being more adopted. There's more solutions talking about improving the user experience in the sense that maybe using email to create wallets, and then or maybe using credit card to check out. So we see there's more of these solutions being adopted. So which I think is quite interesting to look into as well to grow the pie together. And I think another perspective I would also love to share is from a builder perspective, right? I was actually recently reading one of the developer reports from Alchemy. They're actually talking about with all the Web3 type of like packages that being downloaded, like Web3.js, ETH.js, something like these combined. I think weekly we're talking about having 1.5 million downloads every week regarding to this combined, which is about like nearly 170% higher than like year over year as well. So because of these numbers, we actually see more developers are joining to this space to build solving problems together. So I think so that it's a painful lessons we had through some of the event that like FTX Luna, but at least believe that with more traction, people building here solving problems, do believe the ecosystem is going to be strengthened going forward as well. So hopefully, we'll see that coming soon as well.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Brian. Jeremy, anything exciting from the Hedera space? Because I was involved in Hedera at the very early stage, but unfortunately, MobiFi is not actually building on Hedera yet. So I haven't followed up closely, recently on Hedera. So maybe Jeremy, you can give us some, sharing some of your experience with Hedera in 2022. What happened there? Exciting stuff.
Yeah, sure. So, to kind of kick it off, of course, the HBAR Foundation, which launched in, I believe it was September of 2021, it's a big foundation. I mean, when you look at the charts of the grant foundations that have been established by different networks, from the last time I looked, the Hedera, the HBAR Foundation dwarfs pretty much every other grant foundation out there in the Web3 space. So they had a lot of money to process, right? So, and it's a small organization, so it definitely took them all the way through the end of 2021 to kind of get their processes in place. So this year for Hedera was, a whole host of projects that are being supported by this HBAR Foundation. Initially, when it launched, I believe it was 10.7 billion HBAR is what the foundation was created on. At the time it was launched, it was 5 billion, but that's of course down, 80-90%. In value. So they've definitely had some challenges, just given the market. I mean, everybody that I talk to is experiencing, essentially the same thing in 2022, where, I mean, we know why we're here, we know what we're building. It just, the decrease in market price does kind of dry up funding from the point of VCs, and investors tend to be a little bit more conservative, but the foundation created, but the HBAR Foundation has had this kind of steady stream of projects that are being funded, and there's some pretty big names in there. I mean, when you look at the governing council, I mean, you've got teams like Ubisoft for gaming, and you see some pretty big names getting picked up by the HBAR Foundation as well, and then a whole host of small startups like ourselves. So we were happy to be supported by the HBAR Foundation in 2022. And again, many thanks to you, Yudi, for the large part that you played in that. I think you did. You may not know it, but you did play a big part in that process for us. So thanks for that. And so just in terms of numbers, you can look at the end of 2021 in terms of marketing. The Hedera ecosystem had about 5 billion impressions. From a marketing perspective, and then at the end of this year, they're over 50 billion impressions. So in the neighborhood, so 52 billion, and that was in November. So maybe 53, 54 billion by the end of the year. So that's an order of magnitude greater from 2021 to 2022. So that just shows growth. And even so, despite the downturn in market, that's one of the interesting things that I find is despite the downturn in the market, you're still seeing companies return to growth amidst serious market pain. And in terms of adoption and usage, now in terms of revenue, might be a different story. Because I think a lot of the industry is I mean, we're trying to wean ourselves off of that Web3 market dependence, and that's becoming easier as some of the other speakers mentioned, as the Web2 space gets closer to Web3. So and previously it's like Web3 was just all kind of building in its space because there was so much tooling that needed to happen that we had to build all that stuff. But now that we're becoming more mature, we're starting to kind of rub elbows with people in the Web2 space. So that's helping out a lot as well.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much, Jeremy. I think I download your app. Actually, I can still see some signs of my design in it. So, yeah, I'm actually really happy that I helped. So since Jeremy mentioned a bit about fundraising, also Agata also mentioned about the challenge in fundraising, right? So especially for small startups, I'm just wondering, anyone here has any like advice, suggestions on this fundraising part, especially for small startups?
Well, I mean, I can say something just real quickly. You know, is you really have to know, especially in Web3, right? Like, it's such a new space that you really have to know what your mission is. You have to know what your company is about. Like, what is it that, you know, I mean, and it sounds basic, but you really have to be clear on what is your goal? What is your direction? You know, who are you as as people and as a company? You know, what is your actual mission? And then you've got to aggressively get out there and find people that have money that align with the goals that you have. You know, you've got to pound the pavement, whether it's conferences, whether it's going to local meetups. I mean, I think we tend to get kind of in this mindset that, you know, we can just kind of do everything from the chair at our desk through the computer. But I really think in order to raise the funds, you've got to get out there, you've got to get out of the building, you've got to get out of your own space, and you've got to have a clear mission.
Yeah. So I actually went to the event in London last month. The thing that I noticed, the token 2049 and NFT London. So in token 2049, what I noticed is most of the participants or exhibitors, they are big or medium, I would say medium-sized centralized exchange or blockchain service providers. That's what I see. So to be honest, I'm a little bit disappointed that I didn't see a lot of real, big innovations in this kind of event. Seeing the centralized exchanges like putting a lot of money doing branding there is actually doesn't really help from my opinion. But yeah, getting out to meet people. I actually meet a lot of people, quite some people here just in London, so it's really helpful just go out and meet people. So if you have any questions, please also you can raise your question, or you want to share some other of your opinions. Otherwise, I want to just dive into a bit to the future. So basically next year, Anton, I just want to put you on the spot. So I think you already mentioned it. Next year is going to be maybe the competition between the Web3 and the real world, right? So, is there any I would not call it prediction, but any expectation or something we should get prepared?
Yeah, yeah, it's a very good question, and also I'm reflecting now as you're asking. And I mean, I can maybe share one thing, where I think we as an industry should be prepared, and also as builders and founders, is that kind of, if I reflect on it, we haven't really seen a recession. Actually, our industry has not seen a recession actually in the real world. If you kind of think about it, back in 2018, not 18, 8, when the financial crisis was unraveling, the central banks and the governments went on a mission where they really didn't want to allow that, recession or a depression of the style from the 30s happens,
Yep.
And kind of they did everything possible, to not have that happen.
Yeah,
if you just reflect on it, kind of what happened during COVID, which was a real stress actually for the whole world, is they printed most money ever in those few weeks actually.
Yeah.
So I think we have to, when I speak to the people, I love our industry a lot, and I spend most times talking to people from the crypto industry, Web3 industry, but I speak a lot to people who also are not part of our industry. And then what I kind of feel and I get from them, there's a lot of uncertainty, And I think that the game plan and the way founders and builders operate next year, given that uncertainty in the real world, should be very adaptable. And I think we should kind of brace ourselves, you know, how we're going to manage in the next year or maybe even 2 years, if you have actually uncertainty and, you know, and actually hardship in the traditional world. Yeah. So I think this is kind of like one thing that I would say, like thinking about the future. Obviously, I'm very optimistic and very bullish, you know, amazing things will happen. But at the same time, our game plan cannot be the same like it was in 2018. Our game plan cannot be the same like it was in 2014 when we had the down cycles in the crypto space, because just the environment is completely different, you know.
Yeah.
And you know, this is a big opportunity, I think, you know, for us. But I would just, this is one thing that I'm reflecting on every day when I'm kind of looking into the new year, is like that I cannot do the same thing I did before. It will just not work. So, and this is what keeps me up late at night. Hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, I think this is a brilliant point. Actually, I've been reading a book from Rarible, the how to deal with the changing world order, something like that. The principle of the dealing with the changing world order. So, and I did some research. I actually shared it on my LinkedIn. So the debt rate, debt ratio to GDP ratio is crazy now for most of the European country. I think Japan is over 220%, something like that. So basically, like you said, right? So 2008, you know, the government bank, central bank print a lot of money, but somehow the economy is getting slightly better, or at least not going like greatly down. But now during COVID, I think they printed again a lot of money. This time it created those crazy hyperinflation, and seems the recession is probably happening. So it's a completely different situation now compared to you know, the previous years, you know, for the crypto industry. So definitely, yeah, excellent point.
Yeah, just to kind of. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry, just to maybe add, I think I would like to maybe just reflect upon two things that Anton mentioning now and also previously, that for me are also the keys, which is, you know, for maybe coming from my angle, which is, you know, the decentralized finance and generally, let's say, new financial markets on the blockchain. I think the important question is to ask, you know, how do we rebuild these markets and how do we add the value, right? Because Anton also mentioned these unrealistic yields, you know, that were visible in last year. And obviously, if you look at a lot of projects that popped up in the last, in 2021, especially, and also 2022, they were promising, you know, huge returns. But if you look into the project and ask, okay, how is this return created? What kind of value does this project create, and how does it earn this money? You can see that this is many of them were, you know, fake, useless projects, and a lot of money flowed to the market also through, you know, government stimulus. So there was more money to invest in just whatever that was offering you a great return. But what I'm really hoping for is that you know, we can use this technology to build something more meaningful, something better, and something that actually has proper value attached to it. And that's what I'm excited and hopeful to see.
Awesome, thanks. Jeremy, you want to say something, right?
Oh, I'm not sure. I think. Oh, yes. Going back to the previous conversation, right? Just in talking about inflation. I mean, we've got, you know, kind of an added element now too, where you know, with the ongoing war in Europe, you're starting to see, you know, relationships between the governments of China and India and Russia, where they're really starting to assert their own independence. And in the wake of a decrease in the dominance of the U.S. dollar, you're just going to see a lot more turmoil, right? I mean, you're going to see a lot of uncertainty. So, yeah, I definitely think that, you know, it's going to be interesting over the next, you know, really over the next decade, 20 years, you know, as the dominance of the U.S. dollar could potentially, it's going to create a lot more of that uncertainty. But in terms of the But going back to the other point about, well, I see Anton has his hand up, so I'll let him jump in there.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, thanks a lot. And I just wanted to add to something that you said very brilliantly, actually, is the dependence, on the dollar and kind of new players offering their solutions, and mention, China in that context. And for a specific reason is because China has been, I know people who kind of know what's happening there is China has put immense effort to create a digital currency like the one that we would actually have in the context of a decentralized, obviously governed, but a digital blockchain decentralized solution. I think this is maybe a way for us to think about the way forward. Is that I truly believe that the world in the future will be blockchain based. Some countries are maybe more skeptical towards that, like US, who's very harsh with its regulation. But you have actually whole countries with billions of people who are actually making it happen. And I would like to point China as an example of that. Obviously, the context why they're doing that is very different than maybe why we are intrinsically motivated to do it, because of decentralization and opening up the financial infrastructure to everyone. But I think this kind of should be a guideline for us, that what we are doing is going to be a way forward for countries and peoples and people and that's what makes you kind of very optimistic, but also very cautious, because at the same time we can go down the path of actually building solutions that later on, under the umbrella of governance or regulation, or how you want to call it, go into the hands of people who purely want to use it for the purpose of exercising their power. Yeah? Mm-hmm. So just wanted to add to that, and I bow and thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much, Anton. We already timed, but due to the technical issue at the beginning, I think we can extend it a little bit. Nana, you want to say something, right?
And I just want to echo on Anton's point on how China is using the blockchain technology. But from my point of view, I think the blockchain applied in China, that is like a private chain, right? It's not connected to the world, because Chinese government, they're super sensitive about the capital control. They try every method that not to let the capital flow out of the country. So this is one of the reasons they crack down those Bitcoin stuff. But nevertheless, I personally do see this blockchain can be applied in our real world in many use cases. Especially, I think for government. Let me give you a simple example. For example, if you want to open an account with the bank, and they usually ask you for a certified true copy of your passport. But think about if the government really use blockchain and actually your passport is an NFT, you don't need anyone to certify it, right? To certify the authenticity. So I do think this technology has a wide, and also I'm bullish on NFT as well. I think it has lots of use cases in real world. In all, actually myself is bullish on this whole thing, the crypto blockchain. And I want to add something on, like, I personally, actually, I think we are now hitting the bottom. For personal investment perspective, actually, I think right now is a good time to start to accumulate some coins. Bitcoin and Ethereum. I'm just curious. I have a question to all of you. Like, how do you think of next year? Will there be another black swan event that can hit the price of Bitcoin to 12,000 or 10,000? So this, I leave the question here. I'm really curious, but I personally think right now is the time can gradually start to accumulate some coins. Yeah.
Not a financial advice, right? Even from somebody.
No financial advice.
Okay. Yeah. So anyone, Tim, I think you raised your hand. Maybe you want to echo on that.
Yeah, just echoing quickly on Chinese situation. So what they use is called a hybrid chain. So basically, hybrid chain is the merge of public chain and private chain. So certain part, for example, 50% of your data is held on a private chain. So basically, they can modify it and manipulate the data. So I think compare the ionic situation in China with Western country, what we see is the Chinese blockchain has been developed throughout the time. So currently on publication side, I think the highest publication and referred in academic area regarding blockchain technology is the highest one came out from China. So from that perspective, so Chinese blockchain is mainly to B, so which is to company, and to G, to government. So they have highly invested in supply chain blockchain technology and other government related blockchain technologies. But however, I think with the Western country, because the freedom is there, so we are seeing more to C and to B applications like DeFi applications and then NFT applications or app applications. So just some echo on Chinese iconic situation. So back to Nana's question, I think black swan will happen. It's really unpredicted with what happened this year with Terra's fall or FTX fall. I think a lot of people actually held faith on FTX. They thought FTX will not fall and not collapse that quickly. However, it just collapsed over a weekend. So from that perspective, we know that there's nothing. No matter how large your corporation is, it will fall. It will somehow fall, and then in a unexpected way. So next year we will see. We might be able to see other organizations, famous organizations, like not too far fall, but like Binance or Coinbase or some other exchanges or other projects, the possibilities are there. So but however, it also means new opportunities are coming up. Like when monopolies like collapse, you have more opportunities. So it's just about grabbing your opportunities. I believe that from next year we will see more opportunities coming out from the industry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so to remind me something, saying anything that can go wrong will go wrong, basically. It's the Murphy's law, right? So I'm not sure now if whether it's the best time to.
Yeah, when Tim was speaking, I was thinking you didn't refer to Binance and you mentioned the name. Actually, to be honest, I mean myself, I also transferred my coins out to my cold ledger. I think a cold wallet. Yeah, cold wallet is always a personal hygiene at the moment. Although they say finance is too big to sell, but yeah, as Tim said, I still reserve my view to that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm done talking. Thank you.
Thank you. So Nico, what's your opinion for next year? Any thoughts, or maybe any investment advice for Nana?
Well, I would say it's gonna be an interesting year. I don't think the market will fully recover. To be honest, I think 2023 will be really a builder's market. I think we will see a lot of adoption in social, but mainly from Web3 early adopters and maybe some daring institutions that want to that see the future of Web3 will also start jumping in. But yeah, I think it's gonna be a year that's mostly focused on building. Maybe social will come up, and mainly those things, I would say. I think it will be also interesting to see sort of like how DeFi evolves and how DeFi answers to all these other problems that have arisen this year. So FTX and maybe even a response to Luna. So I think people deserve better innovative investment platforms and solutions. So I'm really curious what's gonna happen there. I really hope that there's evolution in onboarding processes and making it easier for people to get in once the next bull market, maybe by the end of next year restarts, or maybe even 2024, then people are ready to just jump in. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you. Anyone else have any thoughts or reflections, expectations for next year want to share with us?
Sure, I'll jump in there. So, my 2 cents on, I'll play the price prediction game, I guess, just because it's kind of fun. But I think I would anticipate, that either a flat experience or pop. I tend to be kind of a pessimist. I'm pretty pessimistic. Out of whack. That really, I mean, anything could happen. It's kind of you could argue that, you could argue for it to go either direction. But I think kind of the more important point is that as one of the other speakers mentioned, I think Agatha mentioned this idea of building real useful products that solve real problems, valuable problems to solve. I think if we continue to focus on solving really tough problems that are really valuable, that's the space will continue to succeed. And for me, I think the shifting it's really the reason it's so huge and revolutionary in the Web3 space is because we're shifting valuations from centralized entities that can inflate value with their own purposes and and benefit in mind, right? And so that's why you get these valuations that are so totally out of whack. But as we move control of the valuations of really the economy and societies in general, as we move that system of value over to entities that are in control of information and data, now, I mean, it have negative effects, but I think in general, I think it'll be a positive thing that we see things for companies that provide real value, right? If you're providing real value, then you can be able to create the economy. If you're not creating real value and you're just a central bank that's printing money because of some kind of ad hoc whim policy, that's a dangerous game. So I think it's a marathon. At the end, I think we get there in 2023 and maybe for those couple of years. But sometimes you have to pain to get stronger. So,
Yeah, thank you very much, Jeremy. I think.
Can I quickly echo what Jeremy was saying?
Of course.
I think I'm 100% for the opinion. I think what we see now, especially we have a lot of public chains, and then we are seeing that we are currently seeing a lot of inventions, not innovations. Because what happened on Ethereum, they just copy and paste it to another public chain. So it's happened on all new public chains this year, but especially on Aptos and Sui, the new Move language chain. So I think what happened next year is, again, it's definitely we need to solve problems, how we can utilize the fundamental of the blockchain, that one public chain's characteristic to solve issues, instead of saying like, okay, we're going to have NFT marketplace on Ethereum. We must have another NFT marketplace on Aptos or Sui. It's just an example. Or something like, okay, we're going to have DeFi lending protocols on one, and then we need to have another one in another chain. I believe that the innovation should come up within the coming up years, next year especially, to use public chains and their characteristic to solve issues that we are currently facing, and then some issues that Ethereum might not be able to resolve, but it can be resolved in another public chain.
Yeah, exactly. I think thanks for this point, Tim. Okay, so anyone else want to offer some insights? So basically, I think just to summarize a bit, especially maybe Nana for your information, I think the higher debt inflation or the recession, potential recession, or probably already happening, right? So it's pretty dangerous. It's uncertain, condition for next year. So we really suggest that you be careful of investing. And we are probably approaching the end of a big debt cycle. So that's pretty dangerous, because normally what's going to happen is a new monetary system replace the old one. So, for example, a new emerging currency replaced, not probably replaced immediately, but gonna impact the dominance of the US dollar. That will probably wipe out a lot of currencies from small countries, medium countries. So it's a pretty uncertain and risky next year, I would say. But in general, I mean I think everybody is waiting for a use case or application or a service that deliver real value, and I think not only deliver real value, but also it's going to create a massive adoption for Web3 for everybody, for non-crypto people. I think that's something we're waiting for, and I believe that those innovative people, companies, startups, they will come up with a solution, just like what we had in the internet, history, right? So we've been waiting for maybe over 10, 20 years since the first internet is connected with the mobile application and the e-commerce, and that actually creates this massive adoption. So internet is everywhere, right? So so I think that's something we will potentially, and it's definitely going to happen in Web3. So I think that will wrap up today's Twitter space, unless if anyone else has any other questions. Nope. Well, good. Yeah, it's really a pleasure to have you guys here. And because it's the end of the year, I also wish everybody, a great holiday, and enjoy it. And I will probably talk to you again next year.
Thanks, Yudi. Thanks for doing this. It was fun.
Yeah.
Thanks everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks
Bye.
everyone.
Thank
Happy
you.
holidays.
Happy holidays.
Bye bye.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah. Bye-bye.